Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World, coming to you on a Monday. And on Mondays here at Prime Sports World, that means we're covering the XFL. So keep checking us out as we've been riding with you guys the whole XFL season, and we are down to the final week as playoff spots have been clinched, and we're going to get into some playoff predictions here momentarily. I've also shared the StreamYard link to all the main places. So if you want to join me and talk a little bit XFL action, that link is there. So go home and check it out because I'm running solo here today. I'm David. I'm playing Huffman. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We go live basically every single day, including tomorrow. We're going to be issuing our final mock draft. We're also going to talk about that breaking news that happened in the NFL earlier this afternoon with Aaron Rodgers on his way to New York finally. After what seemed like forever on that trade is finally done. We're going to break that down tomorrow with our resident Packer fan, Israel Rivera, and Christian Simpson, also from the DailyBlitz.blog, should be joining us here for that final mock draft. You don't want to miss that content. I've also shared the link to our streaming platform, so you can watch this if you do happen to miss us live. Thank you very much for checking us out here at Prime Sports World. We appreciate the love and support we get from the community as we can try to give you guys good content here at Prime Sports World. But yeah, let's talk about the Week 10 recap of the XFL season as 4 teams are going to go to the playoffs. 4 teams are heading home. Those 4 teams are the Guardians, the DC Defenders and the Sea Dragons in the north. And then the Arlington Roughnecks and the Renegades, they're in the south. So we'll talk about that here shortly. Let's first talk about the first game. This game was on Saturday as the Battlehawks put up 22 points in the second quarter and cruised to victory, beating the Orlando Guardians 53 to 28. This was basically a clinic for A.J. McCarron. He became the first player in XFL history to throw for 400 yards, also 6 touchdowns. It was just a really good offensive game there for A.J. McCarron. 28 of 35, 420 yards and 6 touchdowns. And sadly, they did not do enough to get into the playoffs as the Sea Dragons had a bunch of the tiebreakers, and they got into the playoffs over St. Louis. Mateo Durant, leading rusher for the Battlehawks, 8 for 36. Kareem Walker had the lone rushing touchdown for this team. And then on the 6th rushing touchdown, we had a 2 from Akeem Butler, 1 from Darius Shepard, 2 from Stephen Mitchell, and then Jake Sunderland, not the guy from 24, had the other receiving touchdown as they just literally put up points in bunches in this game. 22 in the second, 14 in the third, and 14 there in the fourth, and they cruise to victory. Quentin Dormady, you kind of have to wonder what could have been if they had him the entire season. 18 to 24, 188 yards and 2 touchdowns this game. DeAndre Francois came in and threw a touchdown and 2 interceptions. Mac Brown threw a touchdown and an interception. Francois, leading rusher, actually, for Orlando. And Jordan Thomas, Carlos and Rambo, Katie Cannon, and Andrew Jamel all had receiving touchdowns for the Orlando Guardians. Looking at some of the other numbers, 493 total yards of offense. Orlando had 3 turnovers. It's just not going to get it done against a team as good as St. Louis. And they come up just short on making the playoffs. Orlando Guardians probably secured the number 1 overall pick, whatever the draft for the XFL is going to look like. Because I don't know. And I don't think anybody else does either because they haven't announced any of that stuff. But yeah, good game here from St. Louis. It's too bad, they didn't get to make the playoffs, but they did at least come out on a strong note here, winning this game 53 to 28. Just all around pretty dominant performance by the Battlehawks. And if hopefully their fans continue to show up because that was one of the more exciting with over 30,000 fans every home game for the Battlehawks. So good to see fans back in St. Louis and good to see football back in St. Louis as well. To the second game on Saturday, the DC Defenders officially put an end to the San Antonio Brahmas season as they go into San Antonio and win this game 29 to 28. They basically won this game. Good solidarity them. Jordan Tiamo was probably going to be an MVP performance for this team as he put up another 2 touchdowns, a pretty efficient score, 15 to 22, 271 yards. He also had a rushing touchdown in this game, and Alex Ellis had both receiving touchdowns for the DC Defenders. On the San Antonio side, I think they still really got to figure out this quarterback position. Jack Cohen played better in the last 2 weeks, but he really was really bad for most of the season. 34 for 48, 312 yards in this game. No picks, no interceptions. Jack Patrick continues to be a nice bright spot here for San Antonio. They lose. His name is totally escaped me. I cannot remember. They lose, the guy who tore his Achilles, who was a starting running back for them at the beginning of the season. And then Jacques Patrick comes in, 16 of 42, 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Hillman also had a rushing touchdown in this game. Landon Akers, leading receiver for San Antonio, 8 for 90. But yeah, this game was really won in the final, missed field goal for San Antonio, basically steals their season. They tried to kick a 53-yarder from Romo, not Tony Romo's brother, or any relation to him whatsoever. But yeah, they go out and they get a touchdown. They put them up 29 to 28 after they convert the 2-point conversion. And then San Antonio gets the football back, and they have an opportunity to win the game with a field goal to keep their season alive. And they were unable to convert for 53 yards. It's tough to see, but the Brahmas, they did some decent things here towards the end. Their defense really played well at times during this season, but their offense really let them down in a majority of this season. Oh, God. Man, ESPN just had some random audio just play, and it just really kind of spooked me a little bit. But yeah, moving on. So, the DC Defenders go in. They're the number 1 seed in the playoffs. They're 9-1. They've basically been dominant all season. Their only loss coming to the Orlando Guardians, which just kind of seems weird given, the record of both of those two teams. San Antonio in this game, DC actually lost time of possession by a considerable margin and still were able to pull out the victory in this game. They had more turnovers than San Antonio. They basically tried to give this game to San Antonio, and San Antonio was unable to capitalize on the mistakes by the DC Defenders. They had 2 turnovers to 0 for the San Antonio. You just can't get that. You're not going to get that done if that's the way you're going to play. And you also, DC basically tried to give this game away. They just didn't. San Antonio just didn't play well enough to win. And shout out to them. Moving on from there, let's talk about Sunday as we got the Roughnecks getting kind of back on track as they go into Arlington, and they beat down Arlington 25-9. They scored 12 points in the first quarter. They had 10 more points in the third. And they basically shut out Arlington for the entire second half. Arlington already knew at this point that they had clinched a playoff spot, so I'm not really sure what they were playing for. But if the Roughnecks, it was good to see them get back on track here a little bit. Although their offense didn't look stellar in this game either, they still came out and played better than they have before. Cole McDonald, real efficient here. 10 of 11. His only incompletion was an interception for 120 yards. No touchdowns in obviously that one pick I just talked about here. Jeremy Cox, 21 carries for 121 yards, 1 touchdown. Cole McDonald also had 66 yards rushing and a touchdown. Justin Smith, 3 catches for 51 yards. On the other side, Luis Perez, he kind of was traded for a couple of weeks ago. Now he's the guy. Was not particularly good in this game. 22 of 36, 205 yards and a pick. Lyndon Brown, lead rusher, 14 carries for 29 yards, but this team just didn't run the ball well in this game at all. Counting for 26 yards rushing. And then Brian Herndon, leading receiver for Arlington, 5 for 47. He had 7 targets in this game, all but 2 of them. So you like to see that. Arlington also had 2 fumbles. Neither of them were lost. But this is just a game where the Roughnecks just kind of they played better than this. 1 turnover for each team, 341 yards for Houston, basically 100 more than Arlington. Time of possession, Arlington won that by about 3 minutes. And then Arlington also had 2 more first downs in this game. And the Roughnecks continue to have trouble with the interceptions. 10 catches for 10 penalties for 68 yards. I think if that's a playoff game, I think they'll be okay in their next game, as this will be a rematch of the first round of the playoffs. How that works out. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But yeah, the Roughnecks, they get back on the track a little bit. They had a rough down the stretch of this season. Good to see them kind of get back on track here a little bit. They also had a defensive touchdown, so they got an interception touchdown in this game as well. They had a couple field goals, so it's good to see their offense, generate some points again after what was a tough few weeks for the Houston Roughnecks. as they win 25-9. And then the final game on Sunday, we had the Las Vegas Vipers trying to play spoiler against the Seattle Sea Dragons. This game was in Seattle in Lumen Stadium, and they unfortunately were unable to do that. They were also unable to score enough points to deny Seattle a playoff spot. As Seattle wins this game 28-9. I don't really understand the tiebreakers that the XFL uses, and I don't think a lot of other people do either. But they needed to get to 34 points or have the margin of victory be so big that they get in the playoffs regardless. At the halftime, this game was only 6-0 at halftime. You were worried about Seattle because I think that was still enough of a point spread to get into the playoffs. But again, I have no idea. But I know they needed to get to 34 points, and then they get that interception there in the red zone, and they were like ready to score on, and then Ben DiNucci just does what Ben DiNucci does. He throws terrible picks. Like, he makes some plays where you're just like, man, this guy is the best player in the XFL. And then he throws some interception. It's like, what were you looking at? What were you seeing on that play? It's head scratching. But the Nooch, I actually think that he should be the MVP. He's been the best quarterback in this league on the passing. He's also the only team in XFL history to lead his team in rushing and passing. So yeah, Ben DiNucci's been awesome. Ben DiNucci, 26-41, 339 yards, three touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Both of them as they were basically trying to get to 34. This game was already way in hand. One of them was basically like a punt. Like, he basically threw it deep. It basically was a poor man's punt. He also had a rushing touchdown in this game, another one as he gets another one on the ground there. Josh Gordon was incredible in this game, 9 catches for 115 yards. But Juwan Green, Jacob Pearson, and Jordan Vesey also had receiving touchdowns. Jordan Vesey actually dropped like some couple of like really easy conversions that he could have caught. He just didn't come down with. But Ben DiNucci tallies 4 touchdowns in this game. He propels them into the playoffs as they go on to face DC next week. On the Vegas side, their offense really sputtered here. They did put up some garbage time points in the final quarter here. But Jalen McClendon, 6 of 21, 201 yards, and a pick, the one I mentioned earlier. Shea McKenzie had the rushing touchdown, 6 for 11. Yeah, this is another team that kind of needs to figure out the quarterback position. Although Jalen McClendon was okay in spurts down, the stretch this season, he was not good in this game. 6 passes for 6 of 21. It's just not going to get it done in any matter of any game. Also, Matthew Sexton, 2 catches for 119 yards. One of them was a 84-yard play, and he basically was celebrating before he went into the end zone, and the DC defender, or the defender, knocked it out of his hand and went out of the back of the end zone. And one of the rules different from the NFL rule. If that had happened in the NFL, that would have been touchback Seattle. But the XFL rule is if the team makes no attempt to recover the fumble in the end zone, it goes back out to the back of the end zone, they reward that football back to the team that fumbled at the spot of the fumble. So Vegas got that ball back there, and that's when they punched in that lone touchdown that they scored in this game. Interesting rule change. Let me know down in the comment section. What do you think about that rule change for the XFL? I don't know. I think in that scenario, I think you should look at it and be like, hey, this kid was trying to showboat in a game they were getting beat down by 28 points, and we're going to reward him by giving him the football back. I don't know. I have a hard time with that. But Seattle does enough to get into the playoffs. They basically dominate this game from wire to wire the entire time. Seattle, 34 yards, the 25 first downs to Vegas is 8, 466 yards of total offense to 237 for Vegas. They did have those 2 interceptions. One of them, it was a really just a terrible interception. Can't make that decision for Ben DiNucci. That's the kind of decision that'll cost you a playoff game. And so you got to be cleaner on that stuff, Ben DiNucci. I think he's going to be the MVP. He's been the best quarterback in this league. And I'm not sure. I mean, Jordan Tiamo, yes, he's been really solid, but I would give the MVP to Ben DiNucci. And I just love the Nooch, man. Come on. How can you not love the Nooch? I mean, he plays hard. He's got a swagger about him. He seems to really propel the Sea Dragons team. So I think the Nooch is – I would make him the MVP. Do I think he's going to win it? No, I don't think so. I think I think Jordan Tiamo will be the MVP when it's all said and done, because he's had just as good a season. He's been really solid. I think he's only thrown like 3 interceptions all season long, and they have the best record in the XFL. So yeah, that's been the week 10. Let me know down in the comments section what you thought about just various stuff going on in week number 10. I still think they need to have a little more clarity on the tiebreakers. Even when they were explaining, announcers were explaining it during the Sea Dragons game, it still didn't make a whole lot of sense. I think there needs to be more clarity. I think they need to do a better job explaining how those tiebreakers work, because I don't understand the numbers they were using. Like, it's got to be something a little more clear, a little more concise. Also, I do think it's a bummer that Battlehawks, despite being 7-3, are going to miss the playoffs, and the Renegades, who are 4-6, are going to be a playoff team. But that's just the way it goes. I mean, if you want to make the playoffs, you got to win your own division. That's all she wrote for the Battlehawks. Good luck to you guys next season. To the game balls of the week. Let's talk game balls. Where's my game ball? Here it is. Here it is. Game ball right here. Right here. We're going to give this baby out. So for week number 10 in the XFL, giving the game ball to not Ben DiNucci. As much as I would love to get Ben DiNucci as his play elevated them into the playoffs, I'm actually going to go for AJ McCarron. I know they didn't do enough to make the playoffs. But this stat line for AJ McCarron: 420 yards, passing, 6 touchdowns. It's just the stat line it's just like, yeah, that guy had a really good game. He had a field day. Also, with mini game ball, Ben DiNucci as well. It was looking dicey for them at halftime. So whatever Jim Fossil said, or Hazlitt said to that team at halftime, because they came out like gangbusters and scored on their first 2 possessions out of halftime. And Ben DiNucci was a big part of that, rushing touchdown, 3 passing touchdowns as well. So Ben DiNucci gets my game ball for week number 10, and does AJ McCarron as well. Got to give him a shout out, as that was a stellar performance by him in the final week of the regular season. To the matchups for the first round of the playoffs, the semifinals. We got a Saturday night game. I'm really disappointed in the XFL that they didn't put the Sea Dragons and Defenders game on Saturday night and put the Renegades and Roughnecks on Sunday afternoon. But I guess it is what it is. But Saturday night, we got the Renegades and the Roughnecks coming in. We got a rematch of the matchup we just saw last week, as the Roughnecks put up 25 points over the Renegades, who only scored 9 points in the game. And that was all in the first half. I expect a very similar outcome here. I just think the Roughnecks are a much better team than the Renegades. I just don't trust the quarterback play for the Renegades as well. So give me the Roughnecks to go in to beat the Renegades and go into the championship match. To Sunday, we have the battle of the 7-3 Sea Dragons going up against the 9-1 DC Defenders. And yes, I'm picking an upset. I'm taking the Seattle Sea Dragons to go into DC, go up against the Beard Snake, go up against Jordan Tiamo. They've only lost the 2 games that they've played by 1 possession each game. So this is a game that wouldn't be shocking to see the Sea Dragons come out in victory. I'm going with the Nooch. I'm rolling with the Nooch. I'm rolling with Ben DiNucci. I'm rolling with the Sea Dragons at 7-3. I think that they're going to finally get over the schneid when it comes to DC, get that bugaboo off their chest. I will take the Sea Dragons to beat DC and represent the South or the North in the championship matchup against the Roughnecks. But let me know in the comments section, what do you think is going to end up happening on Sunday night and Saturday night and then Sunday afternoon, as these matchups work out in the semifinals. Let me know in the comments section. I'm going with Roughnecks. I'm going with Sea Dragons. And yeah, let me know. I think Ben DiNucci is going to get this done. Week 10 recap, semifinals predictions. Thank you very much for checking us out here at Prime Sports World. Like, share, and subscribe. I'm, of course, your host, David. I'm Point Huffman. I'll be back here tomorrow as we do Mock Draft 3.0 with a resident Packer fan, Israel Rivera, dailyblitz.blog, Mr. Christian Simpson, and my co-host on every single show, Mr. TJ Hopkins, as there's a lot of news going on in all of the major sporting leagues right now, NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball too. If you follow that, go and check out Izzy's show, Rounding the Bases. That debuted on Friday, so you get some content to watch here at Prime Sports World. We're pumping out the content. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me. And gentlemen, what we do here at the Prime Sports World, that is right, we bring the heat. So continue checking us out. We bring the heat 24/7, 365 days a week. I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow. You all have a good night and stay safe.